Eccoci qua ragazzi, di nuovo sul canale, sul Calice Nero. Allora, il grande spettacolo non si ferma mai, infatti questa è la dimostrazione appunto con oggi il nostro carissimo Fred Estby di Dismember, uno dei migliori batteristi, non perché qua, perché noi non lecchiamo il culo a nessuno, ce l'ha fatto un cazzo di leccare niente a nessuno, nessuno come quegli tagliotti di merda che leccano il culo da qua da una parte all'altra. Noi nel canale portiamo solo gente seria, gente professionale, anche se è successo purtroppo con qualche elemento del cazzo, però cioè, siamo levati dalle mani, dai coglioni, gente di merda non ne vogliamo mettere il cazzo, quindi...
E oggi partiamo alla grande con l'attitude piroscottesca del nostro Alan, che però vi fa ribadire che comunque noi ci teniamo tanto a portare non solo gli artisti che ci piacciono, perché comunque Dismember, io e il maestro siamo due fan di due generazioni diverse, quindi perché non portarli, insomma. Infatti ringraziamo sia Fred che ci sta aspettando nella sala d'attesa,
un abbraccio veramente
e poi anche David, che ringraziamo anche, ma noi ringraziamo Fred due volte perché ci ha messo in contatto con David, che l'altra volta insomma ci ha detto che non è tanto avvezzo coi social. Prima di continuare, siccome ho visto un video del mio pelato preferito che si chiama Montemagno, voglio dire, il video è sponsorizzato da noi, quindi se ci volete sostenere, in descrizione ci sono i link del Calice Nero, Endless Fire Clothing per il merch, e poi voglio dire che stiamo collaborando con la nostra parte, dove non parliamo di musica ma parliamo di filosofia, permacultura eccetera, libere comunità, per inserire proprio all'interno del sito liberecomunità.org una sezione dedicata al Calice Nero, quindi ci potrete trovare a breve anche su liberecomunità.org, giusto per fare sinergia, tanto alla fine il caro Alan conosce bene la realtà di Libere Comunità, partecipa anche lui e magari chissà se in futuro faremo qualche episodio crossover tra le due piattaforme. Intanto, senza indugiare oltre, chiamiamo in diretta il nostro carissimo Fred Estby. So, Freddy, welcome to Il Calice Nero and thanks for being with us tonight. Ok, non si sente. Yeah, bellissimo. Non ci senti? You can you hear us, Fred? Un attimo che risolviamo i problemi tecnici. Maestro, puoi anche smutarti però. Vediamo un attimo.
Io, ok, perfetto.
From my computer, the fader is good. I don't know. Everything. Can't hear you guys. Okay. Now. Okay, now Fred is refreshing the page. Allora, Fred sta rifreshando la pagina.
Caricando.
No, è strano però perché abbiamo provato fino a... ovviamente amici, il collegarsi 20 minuti prima per provare tutto. Adesso I hope that now Fred can hear us. I hope.
Okay.
Fred, you have the mic muted now. So you have to... Okay.
Now we're good.
Finally. Thanks, Fred, for being with us. And as you can see, Fred, we tried the sound before the show. Everything goes well, but as the live stream have a lot of surprise. So,
you know, I'm actually my main work right now is a podcast producer and recorder and engineer. So I know the struggles. It's like everything can be fine, and then you have to refresh, you have to redo stuff. I know.
Okay, so Fred, you are into those things too. So I hope that we do we don't make a bad presentation ourselves.
No.
I was saying that it was fun to make a quick sound check before the show, and then we live and poof, everything goes to hell. But now everything is working. So I will pass the word to my brother here, the maestro, for the first question. So we will start right now the interview. And maestro, aspetta un attimo. Before make the first question, guys, comment if you want to make your own question to Fred. He's now with us and is available to answer also your question. But without further ado, maestro in Italian, and I will translate as usual. Vai, maestro.
Allora, Fred, entriamo all'interno della tua batteria. Il rullante e il timpano sono i due libri che vanno a abbracciare la poesia. La poesia va sui piatti, su il ride e il China. Il China dovrebbe trasformarsi in una stagione Questa stagione dovrebbe trasformarsi in un ghiacciaio. Questo ghiacciaio come potrebbe essere chiamato da parte di Fred Estby con i suoi batteri di batteria?
So actually the first question is divided in multiple ones. So I try to go step by step. The first one is about your playing, your attitude as a drummer, also your influences, and if you can compare the energy, the aggression of your drumming in Dismember, also comparing the way you play with some books, philosophical books, something to go a parallelism between aggression in philosophy and aggression on the drum set. This is the first part, actually.
It's for me, I guess, like death metal and Dismember, it's not the most dynamic music when it comes to soft and hard. I mean, it's hard all the time, right? Even if you do a slow part, you're playing very hard. It's a very like aggressive way of playing. I mean, I've played other types of music, and we had the band called The Dagger, me and David from Dismember, where we played more like rainbow kind of hard rock, and it's a different way of playing. You have to be way more dynamic as a drummer, and you have to think more about that certain parts you have to play a little bit lighter. You can't be so aggressive. You can't just be on the crash and all the cymbals. Everything can't be loud all the time. You have to like let other instruments and certain parts, maybe the drums should be way in the background. As of when it comes to extreme metal, you're like it's from the first hit, it's kind of like it's an aggressive fight with the instrument, which is cool. But when it comes to, well, I don't know if you mean like when it comes to books and such, do you mean like compare like stories with drumming, or
yeah, it was really like since a lot of we got a lot of stories, tales that are aggressive or horrific. Also, we got dynamics also in the poetry with the rhythmic of the word and stuff like that. The maestro wants to know if can be some comparison to your own way to play with something like this.
Absolutely, and especially since in the early days I wrote most of the music myself, so I had to think as a drummer, but also as a guitar player, and a little bit about, the vocals were always, Matti was always doing his stuff and having his own ideas, but we could collaborate and talk about it, but there are certain parts, where it's a little bit softer or slower and faster, and especially an album like Indecent and Obscene, I think I was kind of almost off the rails there, like playing and composing stuff that was almost above my own ability of playing. It gets a kind of feel that you're chasing like something that you almost can't catch, but it gets kind of wild, but it's also it's almost a little bit too complicated sometimes, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, but I could probably compare that to the ebbs and flows of literature. Absolutely.
Okay. And meanwhile, the second part is about the dynamics too on cymbals, chinas, crashes, and stuff like that. Since I think that a lot of drummers have their own set and place it in a way, of course. Me and Maestro are both drummers, so everyone has his own setup. He wants to know if you have to explain why you hit something in a way just to answer to this aggression of Dismember to create like a wall of sound. This kind of wall of sound can be compared to a mood of a season. For example, the heat of a China can remind atmospherically some landscapes in winter, fall, summer, spring. This is the question of the second part of the question, actually.
Yeah, I think so. I'm a big fan of vintage kind of cymbals that you can hit them really hard or you can hit them loose, and you get a very good. The vibration is right, whatever you do with it. I feel like I'm gonna give you a good example here, like the root symbol, the pace root symbol. I don't understand why they invented that. Why do you need to have the cymbals that are way louder than anything else? If you hit a cymbal really hard, it's gonna be louder than most of the drum kit anyway, right? You can never play a bass drum harder than, it's not gonna sound more than a cymbal acoustically. So why would you invent stuff like that? But on the other hand, like a China cymbal, right? That's, for me, that's an effect kind of cymbal. It's not something that you hammer on for a whole beat, for a whole riff. You know, it would be too much to me. I think that even though it's extreme metal, and I said before, the dynamics aren't that big in death metal, still the dynamics within the drum kit is very, very important, I feel like, because I feel like a lot of drums these days are like they're brand new cymbals that are loud, and it's like, why does that have to be so loud? Especially when you play fast. The faster you play, the looser you're gonna hit the drums, and then so if you play a blast beat, and then you hit the cymbals really hard, and the cymbals are made to sound really loud. To me, that sounds like a sewing machine, and then suddenly there's a gong. That to me is wrong. I don't like how that sounds. And to compensate that, then you have to put triggers on, and I get that. You can't play extremely fast for 1 hour and 30 minutes if you don't trig your drums. No one can do it. It's humanly probably impossible. Maybe some people can do it. I couldn't do it. But I just feel that maybe you should take a step back and think about what is the dynamics in your drum kit. I have my own flaw is that I'm very heavy on the hi-hat hand, because I'm pretty, like, my right arm is probably like 25% stronger than my left arm. So, I mean, I hit the snare really hard, but sometimes when I listen to myself acoustically, if I see someone has filmed me, I'm like, damn, I'm too heavy on the hi-hat. The hi-hat is too loud compared to the snare drum acoustically. I mean, we play big festivals, big stages, so it's not going to be a big problem for my sound guy to take care of it. I'm just saying, if I was playing in a club, you don't have a PA system. It's just drums and a couple of amps, and it's only the vocals and the... Then
usually in a club, cymbals are not mic'd up in
exactly.
medium size. So you got
so if you play
audience will listen like
and exactly,
and maybe they get confused and say, "Oh, the drummer is not good because I can hear too much."
So yeah, what's he doing? I can't hear the snare. I can't hear the bass drum. So it's all about that. I think it's very important though. Drums, you have so many different pieces of equipment that you need to know how to use. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert in it, but as a music producer and a record producer and engineer, I have to think about that a lot. I have to tell other drummers, don't hit the cymbals so hard when we record, because I only get cymbals. I don't get the snare. I don't get the toms. You know what I mean? It's like this. It's absolutely. Like, okay, fine. Oh, cymbal hit. Whoa, cymbal. It's like, no.
Yeah. It's very interesting, this kind of topic, because nowadays that for budget reason, for I don't know, to speed up the process of producing, drums are in underground, but also in good production, are quite often resampled, triggered, or programmed.
Yeah.
And I think that you can do it, but don't abuse it, because when you have the chance to record yourself, you can get into those problems.
Yeah.
So people setting the velocity at high speed or making something that cannot be possible in reality, because we are humans. So, for example, getting the finger technique on the snare, the volume go down instead of doing a Moller technique or making something really hardcore. Volume. So the thing that you said about the dynamics is something that not because you are here, but it's very interesting. People have to clip this audio and make this in every drumming school, because I got the chance to teach kids this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And when I teach kids, they of course say me with all the metal side and say, oh, okay, you play loud. No, I don't play loud. I play blending together drums and cymbals, and you should do it also for your genre, because of course the dynamics in metal are like loud and loud. There is no, as you said. But I think that blending together toms with cymbals, with stuff, it's also important to create the chemistry of with also the other instrument, but also to let people get into what you said, because as we can said, getting too much harder the feeling on cymbals or playing too much harder can be not so good in terms of the quality. But also when you see a band live, you can say how much they spent on the recording or how much they spent time on programming, because you say like flip the difference. And since you are talking about a little bit of drum gear and stuff like that, I will jump into my question. Maestro, faccio un attimo una domanda e poi traduciamo tutto. This question will be in my set list of questions at near the end, but I think that it's good to jump right into now. Since you said that you are playing something like Rainbow, so I can say hard rock style, hard rock sandy style. You got the same drum kit and the same cymbals compared to what you use in Dismember, or you have to figure it out a different setup, and which kind of drums, cymbals, and equipment you use for those two projects?
I was actually I was really nerding out doing that type of drumming. I was really nerding out. I was reading about what was Cozy Powell using, what was Ian Pace. I was watching all the old clips of it, a lot of Ian Pace stuff, because I think he has a very dynamic way of drumming, and he has this whole, school of the marching snare and all that I have never taken any lessons. I have never learned how to read drum notes and stuff like that. So I was really nerding out, seeing I bought the same pedal that he had, tried everything out, the old stuff. And then I took it apart and I was like, okay, now I have these really old cymbals and it's going to be different playing this. And then I had to get a really old, really thin hi-hat, because like I said, I'm really heavy on the hi-hats. I had to think about the dynamics. I think that helped me then going back playing with Dismember again. I actually kept those kind of cymbals, the old type of cymbals, the really thin, pasty ones, and trying to get the old stuff. I would never play anything but a supraphonic snare. It doesn't matter what music, because I think that's the one that sounds the best. I have tried so many. I've had Rogers, I had new snares, I've had brass snares, I've tried everything, piccolo snares. But I feel that for the sound, no matter what music I play, for me, the supraphonic snare and very old, as thin cymbals as possible that can take the hit, but you can also play pretty dynamic. You can get a good wash on the ride, but you can also get the bell if you want.
Okay, it's interesting things, because of course nowadays people are getting those heavy rides. Now the trend is about 18-inch ride with the gigantic bell. I have one, but I have one medium weight with good bell, but it's not too thick, because it's like something that is not musical, too thick. So also the fact that you bring those kind of equipment to the Dismember playing, the band members notice that kind of differences between your past sound to the new sound, about the dynamically, something like that.
I probably. We also, when we started out, we didn't know too much about equipment. We got what we could afford, and on tour we used what was provided and everything. But then, as you get older and gain more knowledge, now, since I do all the pre-production and the bookings for Dismember as well, I know what equipment we need to sound good. So it's like I carry my own cymbal, snare, stool, and all that, and the chair. But we always get amps provided. We only use Marshalls or PDs because that's what sounds the best, and we only use Ampeg for bass because that's what's gonna sound best for us, no matter what we play.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the band, but I'm also looking at the musicians in the band, and also what's the easiest thing to dial in when you need to be quick.
Okay, good.
Distro, diciamo tutto.
Now, as how the episode of Il Calice Nero, I'll put the banner on so people from now know that we are talking in Italian to translate everything. Actually, I have my notes here. I mean, in fact, if you see me typing or watching, I'm taking notes to do as closer the translation as possible. So,
Got it.
if you want to, you have like some minutes of break if you have to drink some water and stuff like that. Okay. So now, because I'm saying this because people are complaining if we talk a lot, but they do not say that we are actually translating what you said. Ok.
No, I understand.
Ok, thanks very much. Ok, ragazzi, allora, prima domanda del maestro. È uscita una cosa incredibile perché le nozioni che ci ha dato il buon Fred sono molto importanti e, come ho detto, sono queste nozioni che andrebbero clippate e mandate in ogni scuola di musica, perché abbiamo parlato di dinamiche, abbiamo parlato di un modo di suonare con le persone. Quindi, allora, la prima domanda che ha fatto il maestro è stato la comparazione tra il suono di batteria, quindi le parti di batteria di Fred, con appunto qualche riferimento letterario. Lui dice che suonare la batteria è come raccontare una storia, quindi qualsiasi libro di storie, anche dipende dal mood che si vuole dare, comunque la batteria ha una storia, ha un qualcosa da raccontare, ha qualcosa da sostenere gli altri strumenti. E praticamente abbiamo parlato del concetto di dinamica, che per lui è molto importante, essendo anche lui un producer e anche lui un produttore anche artistico, insomma, quindi si vede, lavora con altre band, lavora con la sua band maggiormente, cura tutte le cose che sono produzioni, registrazioni. Infatti si è parlato molto del suono dei piatti, sulla domanda proprio tua, maestro. Sono dei piatti che deve essere mischiato bene con la batteria, quindi raggiunge il giusto compromesso e le giuste dinamiche, anche in base a come si suona. Lui ha fatto un esempio che ha un altro progetto dove suona musica anni 70 hard rock tipo Rainbow, dove le dinamiche sono completamente diverse da quelle dei Dismember, e si è dovuto adattare. Si è anche adattato a livello di componentistica, comprando pedali, guardando Ian Pace, che è il batterista di Purple, rubando anche da lui per portarlo sia all'interno di un progetto settantiano, quindi con un altro modo di suonare, ma soprattutto anche all'interno dei Dismember, che anche i loro, diciamo, amici tra di loro hanno notato la differenza tra il prima e dopo. Quello che dice Fred è molto importante, la dinamica, il fatto soprattutto dell'umanità e l'umanizzazione della batteria, senza evitare di essere troppo triggerati, troppo semplati, un po' di verità. Non è sbagliato usarli, dice lui, ma soprattutto bisogna capire che bisogna anche imparare a registrarsi, perché tutti programmano batterie, tutti le sembrano, quantizzano e fanno quello che fanno tutti, però poi si vede dal vivo la differenza tra chi sa e chi non sa fare, tra chi sa programmare ma non sa suonare, soprattutto quando vede che le persone suonano la batteria molto piano e i piatti ce ne danno e ce ne danno di santa ragione, e quindi bisogna anche mantenere, no, la differenza e soprattutto ricercare il proprio suono. A proposito dei mood, come per esempio le stagioni, lui dice che quello che vuole creare è un muro di suono, un muro invalicabile attraverso il suo drum molto potente su Dismember, attraverso per esempio l'hi-hat che è molto pesante rispetto agli altri pezzi della batteria. Infatti è dovuto anche aggiustare il tiro e comprarsi dei piatti diversi, dei pedali diversi per riuscire a sostenere questa cosa, anche perché finché suoni nei grandi festival, cioè il tuo fonico ti regola e tutto, ma poi quando suoni nei club non è possibile. Quindi a livello di mood lui ti dice qualsiasi modalità durante l'anno, qualsiasi stagione che possa creare un muro di emozioni, una tempesta, insomma, diciamo così, no? Perché comunque lui c'ha il suono bello pesante, bello cazzuto, e quindi però vuole anche far sentire tutto il resto. Poi riguardo il materiale personale, lui utilizza piatti vintage, lui utilizza Supraphonic per quanto riguarda il rullante, che è uno dei rullanti più registrati, lo usava anche Ian Pace prima di passare al Pearl, lo usava mi pare anche Bonzo delle Zepp, cioè l'hanno usati tutti queste cose. E poi ovviamente da quanto ho capito piatti poco spessi, quindi piatti che di solito non sembrano per il battista death metal, però effettivamente non è il primo che parla di questo contrasto. Infatti per esempio a lui non piacciono molto i Paist Rude, I pastry wood, per chi non conosce, sono piatti della pastry che sono molto pesanti, fanno i ride che a me piacciono particolarmente, però provandoli vi dico che veramente in napoletano si chiamano rammere, cioè lamiere, sono veramente amusicali, e lui dice sempre di trovare la musicalità in quello che si fa, anche se si fa death metal, quindi un messaggio molto importante. E veramente in questa unica domanda da quasi mezz'ora, maestro, veramente abbiamo detto dei concetti importanti che vi invitiamo comunque, per chi si sta collegando solamente adesso, a riprendere questa domanda, quello che ha detto Fred, perché c'è stato veramente, si vede quando c'è la ricerca dietro a un progetto, ma soprattutto quando c'è qualcuno che, lavorando anche non solo come batterista, ti sa dare qualche dettaglio tecnico che può esservi utile anche per i vostri progetti. Siccome, maestro, io già gli ho fatto qualche domanda mia, ti lascio la parola. So now, after the translation, maestro again with another one. Vai, maestro.
Allora, ciao Fabio, ciao Matteo. Allora, ben arrivati.
Tra l'altro, Titans of Metal Fest, e ci vediamo a settembre. Calice Nero Volta Lab Partner. Un saluto a tutti quanti gli amici del festival. Vai, maestro.
Allora, Fred, cerchiamo di entrare all'interno della natura. Allora, vediamo un pochettino. Non una natura verde, ma una natura marrone, nel senso, l'autunno. Le foglie cadono. Le foglie come cadono si vanno a posare sulla terra, oppure sull'erba secca. Questa erba secca, come potrebbe essere descritta all'interno del doppio pedale, ma allo stesso tempo il blast beat potrebbe entrare all'interno di una quercia secolare, e come, se possibile.
Okay, Fred, this question is about, of course, as you maybe you noticed, about your double bass drumming, and also the way you express yourself with blast beat, for example. The maestro make another artistic, let's say, parallelism between Dead Nature and your way to play, because your way to play is unique, stylish in his own opinion, but also very primitive in a sense. So, what are your relationship with those two techniques? How it started? Because we know that at the beginning, no internet, no stuff, so you cannot have the access to all these didactics about that metal. And also, what was your way to express yourself and your evolution as a drummer from the day zero of Dismember till nowadays?
Yeah, there's a lot to unbox there.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's fine. It's very interesting because it's very rarely that someone asks these questions, and therefore you kind of have to like, oh, how was I thinking back in 1988? I didn't know how to play drums. Nicky Anderson from Entombed, we've been best friends since we were 13 years old. He was the one who encouraged me to play drums, and he taught me the basics, and then he was like, you just go for it. It's sounding better, but think about this and this. So I got a lot of guidance from him when I started, but then everything was, I would say, more or less, you listen to other albums, you listen to other drummers, and that's what you kind of gauged, what they were doing, and that you thought sounded cool or was something that you wanted to try. Like, let's say I have a really good one. It's like the opening of Epidemic with Slayer from Rain and Blood. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's something that you could actually sit and try out until you understood. This doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound right. And then you talk to your friends, like, why doesn't it sound right? And then you analyze it. It was a longer process, but you also were more engaged. I see today, since I've been working as a live sound engineer and a record producer for many, many, many years, I see today a lot of the younger musicians are so skilled. They're so good at what they do. They sit at home and they just practice. I totally, I so much respect that, and I think it's really cool. I'm just not that kind of musician. I think I was always playing drums for the song. I don't even to this day, I have a hard time just sitting, practicing by myself. for maybe an hour, not more. I can't. It's too boring to me. I need to have a band to play with. I was always seeking to put the drums within the music we created to make it sound aggressive, but also have this kind of, swing to it that will make it get a good groove to it. Not just like you're just doing this mechanical fills where they're supposed to be. No, all the influences. I also, even early on, I remember like I got these Billy Cobham albums from my aunt, and I was like, jazz music? I don't like jazz music. And she was like, I was probably 16 or 17. She was like, yeah, but didn't you start playing drums? I was like, yeah, but jazz music. She was like, no, listen to the drums here. Just put it on and don't be so judgmental. And I did. And I was like, whoa, there's a lot here that you could actually put in death metal too. That was a revelation to me. I remember that. That was also something like that. We didn't always just listen to extreme metal. For a while, when you're a young kid growing up, you've passed puberty and you're becoming an adult almost, then you kind of feel like, well, I have a goal and this is what I want to do. Everything else can go to hell. For a while, we had that kind of attitude, but that went away pretty quickly. And then you start backtracking and listen to like, why does Rolling Stones sound like they do? Does people realize how much of the sound the drums were? That's a unique drummer. No one ever played like Charlie Watts. And I've seen him live, and he plays the same on album, live, no matter what age. And it's so cool, and that helps their sound so much. But people probably don't think about it. He's not the most, extremely like aggressive or technical drummer, but he is helping the sound so much. I was fascinated by that, I remember. Because I was always so much involved in creating the music and playing the drums at the same time.
Okay. It's very cool because I have the same opinion on Charlie, actually.
Yeah.
So because on the net, on forums, people, of course, talk a lot of shit about Charlie or, for example, Ringo Starr, but I think that they created something in music, and we are like mosquitoes compared to them. But also they imprinted to the band their own style, and you can say when someone try to play Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones without their original drummer, you can say the difference. Because you notice that it's not only the technique and the fact that they play, but also the presence of the musician, but also the fact that they are playing for the music and not to show off themselves.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
if we pick something like Satisfaction, simple beat, but it's like in your chest, no?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Another good answer, but also nowadays people are like too individualistic. Let's say like this. Okay, I will play 300 beats per minute because I have to let people watch me and not the band because I have to say that I'm the best. But we know as drummer that people usually take care of the music and the singer and the frontman. We are like backwards, but we build something to sound like this. So it's very interesting. Also, your comparison about making music and practice drum. Nowadays, as always, I say to the guys, music goes to the music, drums goes to the music. Drums, not only drums and drums. It's drums, bass, keyboards, guitars, vocals. So it's music, and it's not like playing. It's not the same to play in your rehearsal alone. So it's a good point of view, actually. So I hope the maestro will be satisfied about your answer. Yeah, I'm sure that he likes what you said. Okay, now translation time for all of us. Ok, altre chicche importanti da Fred, che ringraziamo per la sua, per le sue chicche veramente assurde, grandissimo. Allora, abbiamo parlato della batteria, lui ha fatto una comparazione con la natura, come la natura va avanti e come qualcosa è unico. Lui ha fatto una comparazione sul fatto che lui ha sempre suonato per la musica, quindi lui non vede solo, come dici tu, un albero, ma lui si vede l'albero, il bosco, la prateria, capito? Tutto l'insieme. Ammira tanto i nuovi musicisti che sono molto bravi tecnicamente, ma lui personalmente ha sempre dovuto suonare per comporre musica. Quindi ha preso come riferimento batteristi come Charlie Watts dei Rolling Stones, che hanno il loro suono, che magari presi da soli non hanno una grande tecnica, ma hanno la loro firma, quindi li sai riconoscere, la loro attitudine. Soprattutto lui si è fatto aiutare molto da Nick Day Tomed all'inizio, erano amici, quindi l'ha spinto a suonare, e quindi fondamentalmente lui ha iniziato a studiare le parti, quindi da come parte, diciamo, un prato, una sorta di come posso dire, una sorta di ecosistema. Si parte dalla cosa più piccola per espandersi e diventare la cosa più grande. Quindi la sua musica e il suo amore della musica è nato suonando, semplicemente. Non c'era YouTube, non c'era Facebook, non c'era niente per vedere se stavi facendo la cosa giusta, ma c'era tanta voglia di fare, e soprattutto c'era anche tanta voglia di non diventare meccanici. Quindi la sua visione tu parli di natura, parli di alberi, parli di questa cosa, no? La sua natura, la sua indole era quella di comunque suonare con gli altri, quindi come una corteccia diventa forte dalle sue radici, la sua radice è la band, suonare con le persone, suonare per le persone, ma soprattutto suonare per la musica, che è una cosa che si sta un po' perdendo, perché magari le persone sono un po' troppo individualiste. Lui ha fatto un ragionamento semplicemente del classico: se ascolto ad occhi chiusi una canzone, devono riconoscere che sono io. Magari non è il più skillato a livello di lettura, ha suonato sempre da autodidatta sulle canzoni, magari ha qualche pecca tecnica rispetto ad altri che hanno studiato, però quello che non manca a lui è stata la ricerca della personalità. E quindi fondamentalmente ci ha spiegato che per lui il suonare per la musica, e soprattutto lui che è compositore, producer, eccetera, è molto importante, perché la band le persone non guardano mai solo il batterista, ma guardano tutti insieme, tutto l'insieme, tutto quello che si crea con la musica, la famosa chimica che c'è tra i membri del gruppo. Quindi è molto importante quello che ha detto, soprattutto in una situazione in cui vediamo che si suona un po' troppo, secondo me. Poi sarò io che sono legato, io personalmente che sono legato a batteristi come, che so, Igor Cavalera, Dave Lombardo, Ian Pace, però io fortunatamente ho lo stesso opinione di Fred. So Fred, I have your same vision. Maybe I'm too much influenced by Igor Cavalera or Ian Pace, which is left-handed like me, and also Phil Rudd from AC/DC actually. But I'm also involved in the composition, so I'm happy when I got with my friends in the rehearsal room, getting together and creating music. The struggle for me over the years was also practice alone. So I will say to the guys and to the people that are watching us that it's a struggle that I feel nowadays, because I have a lot of people that are monsters of technique, but they always overplay. They always overplay. And I prefer less note, but in a good way, rather than and have only say, oh, meh. I prefer the feeling. Yeah. But I'm not that guy that say, oh, you need to only play with kick, hi-hat, and snare. No. I catch the feeling. So it was also good the fact that you mentioned about Charlie Watts, because, as I said before, is a misunderstood drummer. And also, if you can say, it was like out of context, because it was like a jazz player in a rock band, but he figured out to have his own spot. So I think that him or Ian Pace, as you said, or for the metal scene, Dave Lombardo, Igor Cavalera are the ones that have their own. If I close my eyes and I listen some of the old Sepultura or Slayer, the old stuff, I can say that is Igor or Dave Lombardo. So we catch your point. It was also interesting about the fact you said about composition. So my question, Maestro, faccio un attimo una domanda. There is a difference between you as producer and you as a composer in Dismember, and how much the composition between for composition, I mean the fact that you guys get together and try new parts for the song is changed during the years.
Yeah, there is a difference between me as a producer, and that was something that was kind of hard in the beginning, because as I was learning how to become a studio engineer and producer, you know, what what band was I trying to be the producer for first? Really? Well, my own band, which is kind of natural, but it's also kind of stupid, right? It's like, oh man, now you're not just a drummer, the main songwriter, and then you're also going to produce and record your own band members. I mean, it's almost like it's getting incestual, you know? It's like, maybe that's a bad idea, but also if you can do that, then I feel like, you know, if you have the respect as a producer and you work with a band that really want to work with you, and you try, I mean, there's a lot of psychology behind it, and there's a lot of personal relationship, not only professional, not only musical, but you have to be decent with people. You have to get along or not get along, but get your ideas through. And it's a tug of war sometimes. Sometimes it's a great collaboration. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes you don't really get along and it's not turning out that great. And when you do all that with your own band, then you're kind of in a fucking war zone, no matter what, no matter how good you agree on most things. Because even the tiniest things becomes battles, you know? So that is kind of, it's tough, but it's also interesting because you learn a lot by seeing, you can see yourself a little bit from the outside, because I get really annoyed with myself when I'm recording drums with Dismember, because I feel that I'm asking more out of myself, and sometimes I know that I can't really do what I'm trying to do here, so I'm gonna have to dial it back for the sake of the production and the song and the composition. But if I also do some mistakes, I get really pissed off. I get really mad, like almost like, you know, with football players who get really mad when they miss, you know, like yeah, you know, any of the big ones, you know, that like you're like, oh, why is he complaining? You know, he scores a lot, you know, everything's great. But, you know, I've thrown stuff in the studio, like, you know, and kicked things around and everything because I get so invested. And that's probably, I didn't used to do that before I started producing and get involved in the whole thing, because then I could just like, all right, now I'm playing drums, and then I can sit back and have some opinions. But there's someone else recording and producing, but I can have some opinions as a band member. That was easier. But that when you're a producer, you're recording and you're playing drums, then you kind of and are very involved in the songwriting. Then you get it gets like a pressure cooker sometimes. So that's the backside. The cool thing is that you don't need anybody else involved. It's just the band, right? And you've known each other for a long time, and you can get to decisions and get sounds going way faster than if you have an outside person who has to get to know everybody. And, you know, it's a process. So.
Yeah, you have to deal with less people actually. So
yeah, exactly. So that's the upside.
It's more a quicker process.
Yeah, I mean, the older you get, the more experience you get, the easier it is also to know that maybe this I have to be really communicative about. I have to tell everybody, like, okay, when we're doing this, shut the fuck up, because otherwise I'm gonna freak out now, because now I'm really like, I feel that we don't have the sound here, but now we have to get the sound. You just be quiet so I can think a little bit here. You know, it's easier when you get older, but because you can express yourself in a different way when you have the experience.
It's right. And I just another question about this. Maybe it's stupid, so sorry about that. You, when you produce other bands, you produce also are an artistic producer, or just the sound engineer, or both? So you got the chance to. So you may also helped the arrangements of other bands, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. How much is difficult to know new people and get into their like mindset and say, okay, you in this part you play this, but try that one. It's kind of like be the additional member of the band. So this artistic process, when you are involved as producer, how much is difficult? Of course, it's different band by band, people by people, but if you can tell us some stories about your experience as producer, I think it will be useful also to people that maybe want to work with you. How can they contact you, the website and stuff like that?
You know, it's always like, if you don't know the band, if you haven't worked with them before, it's a process to, like I said, you need to get to know each other. But where it can become a little bit of a problem as a producer when you're trying to, I mean, someone comes to you and say, we want you to produce this album. And that only works if people are actually going to listen to you. They don't have to give you all the power and be like, all right, we're going to do whatever he says. I mean, you have to be a little bit self-aware. No, I don't really believe in this idea. He's the producer, but I don't believe in the idea. You should have your integrity. The problem sometimes is when someone's asking me to produce an album, but then they don't want to drop any control. They have their own idea already of how it should be, and then I feel like my participation is kind of moot. It's a moot point because I don't really. What am I bringing to the table? I thought you wanted me to produce this album so my ideas could help your songs, you know. And if you want me to do that, I'm gonna tell you, take that part out. That part has nothing to do with this song, in my opinion. And my opinion weighs pretty heavy because I'm the producer. So it's the thing is, and I know this too, like when we started out, we had our own ideas and everything, and it was kind of hard to let someone else come in and have an idea. But like someone like Thomas Skogsberg that we used a lot, I mean, he had a very good way of doing that. He could implement his ideas with respect so that we felt like, yeah, he has a good point. You know, we should listen to him here, you know. And then sometimes you'd be like, nah, Thomas, now you're like, that's a little bit too much. We can't do it that way. And then you discuss it and then you agree. You know, it's always like like I said, communication is key. But I have had album recordings where things have soured and, you know, the band has been pretty unhappy with the result, and me too, because we couldn't really get along, and that happens, and it's not a, I don't see it as a failure. I see it as a learning curve. You get another experience, and not all experiences can be great, right? I mean, I learn from the ones that don't turn out that great, and I have to keep learning too. I'm not king just because I'm, you know, my label's producer either. So, but it is it's a very interesting dynamics. Like, you have to get to know each other, but you also have to respect each other. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Another very interesting points, because of course we got different inputs from different people actually during the other episodes, and the fact that it's about listen to people and produce together. It's not making you everything yourself. Don't call it an external producer. It's something like that. So I'm really happy about your answer actually, because I think that they're very in depth, and also it's the way that I want to where people can explain his own job as a producer. That's quite misunderstanding nowadays, because of course about getting self-recorded and stuff like that. So without further ado, another minutes of break for you, and we will translate everything about this
awesome
part. Allora, io ho chiesto a Fred la situazione essere batterista con essere producer. La situazione per lui è differente se lavora con altre band o se lavora con appunto la sua band stessa. L'errore che si può fare è pretendere di produrre subito la propria band, perché bisogna anche un po' scindere, no, i ruoli, batterista da produttore. Infatti lui stesso la prende molto a cuore questa cosa, infatti si arrabbia spesso, lancia le cose via, cioè la piglia proprio a male quando le cose non vengono bene, no? All'inizio è stato difficile unire le due sfere della produzione e della composizione, però la cosa che è stata fatta negli anni è quella di imparare anche dagli errori. Spesse volte si lavora anche con band che magari non ascoltano il producer e quindi il risultato non è ottimale. Quando si chiede magari a una persona come Fred di produrre l'album, dice sempre sì, il produttore artistico dà un input, tu devi ascoltarlo, ma non devi lasciare fuori il tuo essere, la tua integrità per farlo contento. Devi comunque avere le tue idee e difenderle, perché magari, come diceva Eraclito, da un incontro nasce uno scontro, e quindi magari le due opinioni si fondono insieme e si crea una cosa nuova. Lui ha avuto alcune esperienze molto positive come produttore, altre esperienze negative dove appunto il risultato non è stato quello che voleva, però quello che vuole dire è che comunque lui stesso ci mette il cuore e l'anima, sia che produce Dismember che produce un'altra band, però quello che bisogna capire anche se uno è maturo giusto per produrre anche artisticamente, perché lui tra l'altro è un produttore anche della sua label, quindi comunque è a contatto con varie figure, con vari musicisti di tutte le età, di tutte le esperienze, di vari generi, comunque è una persona che lavora non solo come batterista, quindi mette in luce le difficoltà di mettere due in uno, insomma, due figure in uno. Però quello che lo spinge è la determinazione. Dice, non tutte le esperienze che ti fanno crescere non sono tutte positive, però bisogna saper cogliere dalle esperienze positive. Quindi abbiamo sviscerato un ruolo del producer che viene molto mal interpretato, c'è molto misunderstanding attorno al ruolo del producer. Quindi io ho detto che mi è piaciuta la sua risposta, perché comunque la sua volontà è quella proprio di far capire che quando si produce un disco insieme a un produttore esterno, il produttore non deve snaturare la band, quindi deve lavorare con la band come se fosse un membro in più. Quindi questa è una cosa molto importante, perché sappiamo benissimo nella storia della musica tanti album sono stati rovinati da producer che hanno completamente snaturato, no? Alan, ti trovi, no? Hanno completamente snaturato gli album, e quindi lui, la sua visione è questa, quella di lavorare insieme alla band come se fosse un membro aggiuntivo, e quindi soprattutto lavorare per la musica. Allora, belle risposte oggi. Veramente mi dispiace che non ci siano tante persone, ma la rivedranno registrata. Allora, però comunque devo dire che Fred veramente ci sta deliziando con dei consigli professionali di cui, apriamo parentesi, molte persone si fanno pagare per dire questo. Ok, maestro, with your question in Italian. Vai, maestro.
Qual è stato il lavoro più complesso nel produrre e allo stesso tempo con quale musicista vorresti creare un album non metal? Allora, fuori anche dal rock.
Ok, quindi completamente
qualcosa di jazz con il noir, ma allo stesso tempo tutto strumentale, quindi nessuna voce.
Comunque, a proposito di jazz, scusami Alan, prima ho dimenticato di dire che uno dei dischi che gli è piaciuto è proprio jazz, è di Billy Cobham. Ho dimenticato di dirlo prima. Può essere importante per il batterismo che mi hai chiesto prima. Scusami.
Però inserendo allo stesso tempo dei sample di film. Però questi sample di film devono essere anni 70.
Ok.
Quindi come potrebbe essere tutto ciò all'interno di una copertina non esistente, come un qualcosa che non esiste come il dadaismo?
Ok, molto interessante. Another question divided in multiple ones. So the first one is about what was your most difficult and complex album that you worked with as producer? And also, if you got the chance to create another project, maybe a little bit jazzy, a little bit more outside metal and rock, of course, what musician you will pick to create this kind of new music? Let's run with the fantasy in this second part.
Ooh, wow, great questions. When it comes to producing, it's been so many different ones. Let's see, one that a lot was done like in the 90s. It's like I don't really remember. There were so many recordings that we did, like we recorded 7 days a week in Sunlight Studio the years I worked there. So it was like we never had any days off, really. At one point we had 2 studios going. So I think actually, and it's nothing against the guys in the band. I think it was just like a production where we at Sunlight Studio, we kind of dropped the ball because there was a lack of communication and understanding between the parts. And that was the band Amon Amarth, which are now huge, great people. I love them and all that. But they did a recording, and I don't remember because, like I said, there were so many recordings at all times, but they recorded an album at Sunlight Studios, and they were not used to. Sunlight Studios was not a studio where we had a lot of fancy equipment. It was not a studio where we didn't think in a modern kind of way. And this was must have been in like 96 or 97 maybe when they recorded their album there. And I feel like Thomas was not so invested, so he kind of let me and Boba Fett from the Helicopters, we were working at Sunlight Studio, and we were kind of taking on this recording. I think the band wanted to record with Thomas, but he was doing other stuff, so it was kind of a disconnect there. And me as inexperienced, and Boba, we were kind of inexperienced. We weren't that experienced, and to take on a band that is trying to like, this is like, or I think it was their second album. They were like, oh, this is gonna be like our second like big album, and like I think they got signed to Metal Blade Records, and it was like a huge thing for them. And they come into the studio where people are kind of like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And, you know, like we're used to deal with people who just do one take, next song, one take, next song, and then we take it from there. You know, it was kind of like almost this factory thing. So I think that turned out so bad that they scrapped the whole recording, and then they went up to the Abyss studio and recorded with Peter Tekgren instead, which was good for them, I think. And that's a recording that I always feel that did not turn out good. It was not a good, it turned out into a really bad situation. And, you know, I it's good for me as a producer to have had that experience pretty early on, because it kind of makes me think I'm not just going to sit back and think I'm the shit, you know, because here you have this band that are huge now, and they knew they had a vision and everything, but they didn't get much help from us in the studio, I think. Understanding, and you know, it was just it was a bad scene. It didn't turn out the way it should have, and I feel sorry for them having to like redo everything. But on the other hand, I think maybe it was good for them to get the bad experience with us, and then go and get a good experience up there, you know. So that's the first one. And then the second, what was the second part of the question again?
Yeah, the second part of before the second part, I'm translating a little bit the first one so we can do more questions. Ok, quindi la prima parte dell'intervista riguardante la produzione più complessa riguarda Siamo. Siamo, il loro secondo album, si sono affidati a Fred, ai Sunlight Studios, sì, e praticamente hanno avuto un risultato perché lui e Boba dei Helicopters lavoravano attualmente nello studio. Non si sono trovati bene per mancanza di comunicazione, per mancanza di organizzazione, quindi loro hanno registrato, non gli è piaciuto, hanno mandato tutto a quel paese, hanno poi registrato e ha visto di Peter Tekgren. Always this name difficult for us Italian to pronounce, but I try. Praticamente lui si è dispiaciuto per il fatto che loro si sono trovati male, però questa cattiva esperienza gli è servita molto per imparare ad approcciare con gli altri gruppi. Anche perché adesso Siamo, che piacciono o meno, hanno comunque un grosso seguito, e per loro è stato buono cambiare studio di registrazione, non registrare in quel modo, perché era comunque uno studio più old school, tra virgolette, quindi era circa il secondo album, quindi lui ci pensa sempre a questo episodio, però fondamentalmente dice deve imparare da qualche parte, quindi la più complessa e difficile è stata con Siamo, a metà anni 90, 96, 97. About the second question, it's about music and running with your fantasy. If you have the chance to pick other band members to create a non-metal, non-rock, maybe the maestro suggests you something jazzy, noir stuff with a lot of influence by movie soundtrack, 70s, something like that. Yours is running with fantasy. Which kind of project you will create if you had the chance to pick by yourself, your favorite musician, colleagues, whatever you want to create a non-metal, non-rock project with you involved, of course?
Well, I think I would like to do like a horror movie kind of soundtrack, you know, and get the best musicians to do, you know, like get strings, get like all the big symphony orchestra kind of players in there, and mix that, so it's not only, because that's been done, right? I mean, that's kind of classical music, it's like your horror music, but to do that, but then have elements of really dark, sludgy, kind of like primitive, like metal. Like I would probably talk to the Dark Throne guys, and that I've never worked with before. It would be interesting to see what they would think about it, or the Emperor. Like guys from Norway that I had never worked with before, and see how could we translate this? Can we get something going that is kind of like very dark and ugly and kind of metal, but then also mix this with a symphony orchestra and get it mixed into some kind of really, really dark, nasty soundtrack of some sort.
For sure will be interesting to hear it, actually, because I'm imagining something. Quindi il progetto Maestro per te è un progetto basato interamente sulle colonne sonore di musica horror, mischiando orchestra con tutti i musicisti dalla Norvegia che non ha potuto collaborare, tipo Darkthrone, Emperor, eccetera. Sarà sempre più o meno sul metal, ma qualcosa un po'... can I say something like film score? Score-ish. Qualcosa vicino al film score horror, insomma. Ma la possibilità è anche di uscire fuori dalla possibilità di suonare metal, ma di fare proprio qualcosa che inglobasse proprio la colonna sonora per l'horror. E sarebbe interessante per lui collaborare con i ragazzi dei Darkthrone, con gli Emperor, insieme a questa orchestra e questi suoni da film horror. Ho detto, ma potrebbe essere interessante, che ne pensi, maestro? A te che ti piace l'horror?
Interessante.
Anche il modo in cui si compongono i pezzi, insomma. Anche perché dice che comunque la musica classica è già stata fatta. Metal con musica classica è già stata fatta, però sarà una cosa nuova, un concept nuovo, ecco, quindi interessante. Interesting.
Se ti voglio far impazzire e farmi mandare a fanculo in diretta, ti chiedo di portare il Dismember all'interno del blues, e questo blues dovrebbe trasformarsi in un genere non etichettabile. Come potrebbero essere rovesciati Dismember totalmente?
Okay, now the maestro is saying, as a disclaimer to his question, if you have to send me to go fuck myself, please do it, because it's a strange question, so don't worry. If you have to implement, he said, some bluesy elements in Dismember to reverse the whole concept from Dismember to create something that no one never heard, I know it's difficult, even for me to translate, how those elements of bluesy and atmospheric also elements can be related to Dismember, but also how can Dismember change if you put some those elements, some weird elements into their music?
I don't think it's that weird. A lot of the stuff that a band like Autopsy does, and we have been doing a lot of that being influenced by them. It's like when you sometimes, you take the distortion off the guitar. And you go like down, 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 down. I mean, that's Black Sabbath, right? Coming to Autopsy, Dismember. But before that was blues. It's just the notes that have changed a little bit. I mean, I could easily think about something that starts off a little bluesy and then turn really dark and twisted. I wouldn't have a problem with that, and maybe I'll do it if we ever do another album. I'll explore it and try it. Why not?
Quindi, maestro, ti ho appena detto che la domanda di mettere l'anima blues non è completamente stupida, anzi è stata già messa, perché le radici partono comunque da quelli che furono i Black Sabbath, le loro radici blueseggianti, quindi non hai detto una sciocchezza, apprezza molto questa domanda, e anzi anche prima ha detto che ti ringrazia molto per le domande che stai facendo particolari. Another thing that I want to say to you, that it's not so artistic, it's a simple question. How was getting together Dismember? It is also a question that we did also in the episode with David, actually. How was getting together with the guys of Dismember and restart the whole machine together?
No, it was great. I mean, it had been many years where we were not on the same page and not really feeling that, this is not going to happen. I remember asking back in 2016 2015, I was on tour over here with the band Tribulation. I was doing sound for them. And people would come up to me during the shows like, "What? Are you Fred Estby from Dismember?" I was standing there doing sound like, "Yeah, why?" Like, "What? You guys need to get back together. Like, you have to." And I'm like, "What? I haven't heard that in a while, you know." Like, and I started hearing it on a regular basis. People would come up to me when I worked shows over here in the States, and they would be like, "You guys need to play again," you know. So I threw the question out there then in 2016, and not everybody was interested then. So I felt like, okay, I tried. Maybe it's the wrong timing here. You know, this is, you know, it was stupid. I shouldn't have asked that now just because people show a little bit of interest. You know, I think we were kind of pessimistic, all of us, because we've heard so much during our career in Dismember that, yeah, you're the best death metal band. Yeah, we're going to come to your show. And then you play in their hometown and it's like 50 people there. You know, we had a lot of that going on at the end of the band, you know, before we called it quits. There was a lot of that. We tried to, like, you know, keeping the machine going and like recording new albums and tour and do everything we could to keep it going in a way that was fun still, and that we liked the music still, and we had fun, and we liked to meet the people. But we felt a lot of that. It was a lot of talk, you know. People were like, "Yeah, we love you guys," and then it's like, "Yeah, but you're not going to see us play it." So, but it's just talk, you know. It's cheap talk. So I think a lot of us were thinking that up until I think like in 2018, that's when we understood that it is people are genuine. They want to see us play it.
And I hope that there will be also plans to new music in the future. We hope.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're talking about it.
Okay, it's good to know. And actually, when we got the interview with David some weeks ago, he was as you now very enthusiastic about the fact that Dismember restarted again. So I hope that you guys can come back again in Italy, because I had the chance to see you at Agglutination Metal Fest some years ago in south of Italy, because the maestro is from Sardinia, so the island. I'm from Napoli in the south, so I got the chance to see you in south of Italy. So we hope to have you back here again. So
I'm trying all I can. You know, the only thing that is kind of hard. Sometimes people think that now that we're back together, we're gonna be touring Europe. We're gonna be touring the US. We're gonna tour. We're not gonna really do that, because we're having a great time, but we also have our personal lives. I mean, we're all
for sure
50 years old now. You know, you can't go out on the road again and be like playing for a month and then come home and then go out again, play for a month. It's just like, even if it would be fun and it would be okay, you would be okay economically, we're old and we need a decent hotel room. We do not want to share rooms with each other, not because we don't like each other, but it's because you're gonna go up and perform, and we want to give 100%. We don't want to compromise on anything, and we also don't want to have any. We want this to be just fun and great, and that people are gonna enjoy it, and we don't want to have any negativity whatsoever. So therefore, we decided that if we do not tour, but we do like festival shows, we do one-off shows once in a while, then it's gonna still be fun in 5 years from now, you know, or 10.
Okay, good to know that, and I hope that you can have the chance to revisit Italy in some festivals.
Yeah, I'm talking to promoters, and hopefully, usually what it is, it's like I said, that like Spain, Italy, and since it's kind of sometimes almost like implied that you have to like do a tour in Spain or do at least 4 shows in Italy, or you have to come through Italy when you're playing like Germany and Austria and all that. That's how it's always been. So now that we can't really do that, we have to rely on festivals or a bigger show that someone else put together, and we just have to wait for the right moment. But we really want to come back because some of the best shows of our career has been in Italy. I mean, the last time I remember playing in 2006, it was insane. It was one of the most hot and fun shows I ever played, and the after party after that, we partied with the fans the whole night through, and it was just so much fun.
Okay, so let's make as good things for the future. So we hope to have you again. Quindi ho chiesto a Alan su riguardo alla loro reunion. Le parole sono state le stesse di David l'altra volta, quindi sono molto entusiasti di essere di nuovo on the road, cioè di essere di nuovo parti insieme. Non saranno molto on the road, ma suoneranno in fill-in shows e grandi festival, quindi big festival, e faranno pochi live ma buoni. Questo perché comunque hanno una certa età, hanno i loro lavori personali anche riguardanti la musica. Poi fortunatamente vogliono dare il 100% a ogni show, quindi non vogliono overclockarsi, diciamo, dico io così, no? Non vogliono fare troppo e male, vogliono razionare bene i loro show, e loro hanno detto che i loro migliori live sono stati appunto in Italia. Io l'ho vista all'Agglutination, che quindi perciò gli ho chiesto, dicono che in Italia è stato incredibile sia la risposta del pubblico che il l'after show. Perché si sono messi insieme solo nel 2019? Perché nonostante chiedessero loro sempre di venire appunto a riunirsi, hanno visto che prima non era possibile perché non era il momento giusto, anche perché fondamentalmente si sono ritrovati spesso con, come succede spesso in Italia, di persone che avrebbero detto di supportarli, ma poi non si presentava nessuno di numero per il loro calibro. Quindi loro pensavano che il loro momento fosse giunto al termine, però alla fine non è così, perché si sono riuniti, stanno iniziando a parlare di nuove cose per il futuro, e quindi noi non vediamo l'ora di poterli ospitare di nuovo magari sul Calice Nero per parlare delle buone nuove. E quindi ringraziamo Fred anche per queste piccole chicche riguardante la reunion dei Dismember. Vai maestro.
Allora, la domanda finale del canale.
Questa volta la fai tu in italiano. Attenzione.
È la domanda della morte.
Allora, the death question.
Yeah, I understood that one.
Raccomando, preparati, the alcoholic Roman.
Yeah.
Allora,
sei bellissimo quando parli inglese.
Allora,
vai maestro.
Entriamo all'interno di una bevanda super alcolica con 20 gradi, fino a toccare i 90 gradi, quasi toccando l'alcol puro. Quale sarebbe la bevanda perfetta, quella perfect, per ingerire all'interno del fegato, per spappolare il fegato e per rompere la milza in maniera totale e allo stesso tempo? Quale sarebbe la bevanda perfetta per far vomitare la vera essenza di Dismember?
So this is the last question of the episode. Is one question that we do to every guest on the show. Since our name is the Black Calice, in Italian il Calice Nero actually, the maestro wants to know what is the perfect drink to represent Dismember. So if you have to choose a drink that to say, oh, this is Dismember in a bottle actually, which kind of alcoholic drink can be? He said that in his opinion, something near the pure alcohol, something that can smash your liver and have you hard feelings when you drink it. Actually, Priest here in Naples, there are some Priests here in Naples that do something like this tall that you have to put really a little bit, and it's like 90% of alcohol, something like this. Ooh. So he wants to know which is the perfect drink for this kind of feelings that the music of Dismember can create meanwhile you listen to them.
Well, you know what? I can come up with a million different drinks I would do. Like if someone asked me, can you come up with 10 like death metal drinks that would represent Dismember? Yeah, I could do it. No problem. Okay. And I'm not a bartender, but I would find ways to make some good drinks. But I got to tell you though that one thing that is very interesting with Dismember is that we used to have this tradition in when we recorded vocals in the studio, because me and Matti, we're kind of like, and David. So David doesn't drink any alcohol. He doesn't drink at all. He has never been drinking any alcohol. But
he said this to us actually. In fact, he said like the coffee for his the drink for him is the coffee.
Yeah,
for them.
but there is an exception. There is one exception, and that is he likes to take like a very, very small amount of the smokiest like scotch that you can find. So usually if we could get a bottle of Lagavulin or Lafroig, we would buy that for the studio so that we kind of cheered with a very, and David would it's so little that he could not feel the alcohol because he doesn't drink. But me and Matti I was recording, Matti was singing, David was there.
Like something ritualistic, have the shots.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very ritualistic, and that would, for Matti, was like, yeah, he gets some warmth to his chest, and like he opens up the, like, especially if I had written lyrics that are kind of hard to like, because we don't think exactly the same always when it comes to how, like if I write lyrics, I probably write 4 times more lyrics than he does, and he's thinking in different ways. So it's easier for him to be a little bit more loose when I'm gonna coach him to do that. So that's a fun ritual that we used to have, in the studio when we recorded vocals. So it would be a very smoky scotch,
Okay.
So like,
actually, these tales is quite interesting because, of course, we as fans that do not know all those behind the scenes about rituals and stuff before the recording. So we actually happy because I let's say something. In this Il Calice Nero, we got plenty of different answers to this one. Someone said coffee. I remember Sentinex. I always say this. Sentinex, the guys from Sentinex, he said as the screwdriver, vodka and orange. Another one picked the beer. Another one picked the coffee. So it's a not so serious question, but serious at the same time because we know the different people behind the musical project. Because okay, you are sharing with us something interesting about the recording of Dismember that nobody knows till now. I hope, and it's good too because you should here in Italy be together and make things together. It's something really important for us. So with this kind of video podcast and this kind of episode like this, we want to make things virtually, but also have something that can be useful real life. So get together, networking, talk with people, share ideas, just to return when metal was like sharing things and not like be trendy like nowadays. So we hope that this kind of vibe that we put together today in today's episode is also arrive also to not only to the viewers but also to you, Fred, that was involved at this hour with us. So we are very thankful for your time because we know that nowadays giving away the time is the most important thing that people can do. So I hope that people can find this interview really interesting. And if you have time, we want to greet you in private after the show, Fred. If you need to go now, you can go, no problem. But if you have time, we would like to ask you to stay when the stream is over. Ok, traduciamo. Con una piccola chicca del grandissimo Fred, che ci ha detto che potrebbe dirti 1000 drink che rappresentano i Dismember, però ti vuole dare uno solo, perché è il loro rituale che si fa prima di ogni registrazione. Anche il buon David beve, che ci ha detto che non beveva il caffè, in realtà lui si ne prende una piccola dose, che non sente nemmeno l'alcol in realtà, però è un loro rituale, uno scotch fumante, ha detto anche la marca prima, però lo scotch che tengono appositamente per lo studio, che li riscalda, e quindi quella cosa della spappola fegato che hai detto per rappresentare i Dismember, loro ti dicono un cicchetto, quindi uno shot di scotch fumante. Ho anche chiesto a Fred se potevamo salutarlo offline, ho detto che c'è tempo, quindi lo ringraziamo 2 volte. Maestro, che cosa ne pensi di questa risposta? Ho detto che comunque tanti hanno risposto diversamente, da queste risposte si vince comunque il carattere di ogni intervistatore, quindi è bello sapere queste cose.
Niente, un'intervista molto interessante. Ringrazio Fred per avermi risposto, perché vi stavo già cercando da un bel po' di tempo, stavo cercando di contattarvi in tutti i modi, quando ho avuto la risposta di Fred non mi sembrava vero, perché non lo nascondo, non ho mai nascosto che io Dismember li adoro. Mi piace molto come registrate, avete un modo di registrare molto particolare, diverso da tanti gruppi del Swedish death metal, diciamo, appunto della parte scandinava. Quindi è un sound tutto vostro, cioè non c'è un'influenza americana, un'influenza svedese, è un'influenza proprio Dismember style. Quindi Fred, ringrazio a te, a David, mandagli un abbraccio da parte nostra, perché ci teniamo particolarmente tanto. Veramente siamo stati onorati ad averti. Speriamo di averti un'altra volta, perché ci farebbe veramente tanto piacere. Ci siamo trovati molto bene di intervistarti, perché
Speriamo pure lui con noi.
è stata come un'intervista all'interno di un bar tra amici. Ecco,
Sì, sì,
veramente.
sì. Poi ce lo dico subito, So, the maestro wants to thank you for, first of all, answering his message, because he was looking for having you on the show for a long time. He's a strong fan of Dismember, more than me, actually. So he was like, oh, it's a dream come true having you in the show. So thank you both for Fred and David, that was some weeks ago on the show. He said that what he always loved about Dismember was the sound and the way you record, and now we know some behind the scenes. So for us, it's a tremendous pleasure to have you here, and we hope that in the future we can have another episode together. And for us, it would be great also to talk about new things, if there will be some new things in the future. So the door of Il Calice Nero will be always open in that sense. So we hope that also you enjoyed our out-of-the-box question to make an interesting interview, not as usual. And also because we was like having something together in a bar, so it was not like a formal interview. So we love this aspect. So we hope that you also love this kind of mood that we try to put in those video podcasts that we do. And we hope that you enjoyed our own questions. So thank you, Fred, for everything. And you got a free space to all the people, from all the metalheads from Italy, all the Italian Dismember fans, and all the fans and followers of Il Calice Nero at the end of this interview. If you want to add something, you have some minutes of free space now.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I'm very grateful for the support, Maestro, and the things I want to bring up more and more so for every year is that the metal scene that we grew up in is still there. Same people, obviously here. We're in our 50s, and we're still friends, across the globe here, which is very, very cool. I think that you can get friends with people because the music you're interested in, and you have a lot in common, and there's a lot of things to talk about still after all these years. So I really appreciate all the in-depth questions, because this is not very regular, which I really appreciate that, because it's more fun, but it's also, it gives us, I think it's bonding more, because you actually not just talk about me here, we're talking about all of our experience and opinions, and that's important. And I think it's very cool that you guys do it in this format. This is the way I feel the most relaxed and interested in talking about stuff too. So I really want to say thank you so much. Hopefully we will play in Italy soon. I'm really working hard on it. So if you have any promoters or festival organizers that you would like to approach us, just tell them to hit just email info.dismember@gmail.com.
Okay, info.dismember@gmail.com,
and I will answer those emails myself.
Okay. And about the production, is always the same mail, or you got a different one?
No, it's the same.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the tips, also as producer, the behind the scenes and stuff. Ovviamente Fred apprezza tantissimo questa intervista perché gli è piaciuto proprio il modo in cui la stiamo portando avanti, quindi lo ringraziamo. Maestro, ti lascio con le ultime parole. So, maestro, I will pass you the word to say the last things and close this episode. So, thank you guys, fans of il Calice Nero from all over the world. Of course, our main audience is from Italy, so grazie a tutti quanti gli amici che ci state seguendo. Anche il 5 agosto, non ci si ferma mai. Maestro, con le ultime... maestro, con le ultime, diciamo, io lo chiamo sempre l'epitaffio del maestro, cioè le ultime parole della...
Allora, le poche parole, il 9 di agosto ci saranno i Malaurio, l'11 ci saranno i Master direttamente from USA, e poi ci saranno i Krabator and Hypnos, il Krabator, grandissimo gruppo appunto della Repubblica Ceca, e poi il 16 appunto ci saranno gli Evoken. E poi ricordiamo che il 23 ci sono niente poco di meno che i Satirico, il 17 gli El Milizia, il 18 i Melekesh. Allora ragazzi, e gli Autopsy, la super mega intervista che inizia da
alle 3 di notte,
venerdì sabato, inizia dalle 2 del mattino fino alle 3 del mattino. Allora ragazzi, non preoccupatevi se alcune interviste verranno spostate, questo e quest'altro. Succede perché ci sono impegni lavorativi, tipo Melekesh, appunto il leader è stato male, quindi adesso sì. Quindi succede, quindi non preoccupatevi. George Colliers viene annunciato a breve, verranno annunciate appunto a settembre, quindi non preoccupatevi. Le band che verranno spostate vengono portate, tipo Fred Estby,
tranne casi di mancanza di rispetto.
Non preoccupatevi, cerchiamo di metterci a disposizione anche delle band perché capiamo. Poi ad agosto, nel mese di agosto e di settembre è normalissimo, quindi non preoccupatevi perché è normalissimo, tranne qualche episodio che non avvisano, allora uno si incazza. Però,
sì.
Okay, però
per il resto, come ben vedete, le interviste sono belle, le facciamo bene, quindi la gente ritorna.
Le band che hanno appunto annunciato ritardi, nessuno si arrabbia, anzi lo capiamo, ci mancherebbe altro, e ringraziamo Fred, David Blomqvist, tutti i musicisti che sono entrati all'interno del canale, dal Fiuna, del 349, Senti, ex Boknagar, che ricordiamo che Boknagar con Lars, che c'è anche il figlio di Bimbi all'interno dell'intervista, che appunto avevano commentato. Quindi tutte queste situazioni, ma anche musica underground, tipo i Matiana, che salutiamo appunto Iaris, un bacione grandissimo, Ecate Edizioni, Sara, un bacione a lei, tutti i gruppi italiani, gli autori, gli org, eccetera, eccetera. Quindi,
anche io prima di collaborare, ti ricordi?
Scusate se ci dimentichiamo qualcuno, ma è tutto un abbraccio intero a tutte le band che ci sono state all'interno del canale. Grazie veramente di cuore a tutte le band, perché tante band sono veramente rimaste affezionate e ci sentiamo veramente tanto, come da Fiuna ad esempio. Quindi veramente un grazie di cuore.
Grazie a tutti e veramente un abbraccio a tutti quanti, buonanotte e ci vediamo al prossimo episodio.
Il grande spettacolo non si fermerà mai, il sacro codice donale 000, la morte prenderà di te.
Buonanotte and good night to everyone. Ciao.
Mille grazie.